All right, so 120 RPM hand cannons are strong. They have their place. I don't believe they should be used on every single map, and I do think there are cases where I strongly prefer my Dire Promise, the Thorn, maybe the Ace, or even the Hawk Moon. And yes, I know I'm just naming hand cannons. I understand there are other guns out there, but today's video is going to actually be talking about the steady hand. Now, Iron Banner has come and gone, but it will come back. And I wanted to share my thoughts on what you should be chasing next time Iron Banner comes around, or what you might already have sitting in your vault that you're unsure of. With the fact that True Prophecy has been removed from the loot pool by Bungie, and people out there like me might not be able to even get the Criminal's Dagger. That's right, I was kind of choked that I couldn't get this gun because I didn't have it in the past. But my focus is on the guaranteed droppable gun, the steady hand. I'm going to preface this by the fact that there are already a lot of good videos out there. A perfect example is a content creator that I respect very much. His name is Fallout, and he posted this video with the thumbnail on the screen right now, diving into all the perk options that you can get on this thing and what they do. On the off chance that you are not aware of who he is, I strongly recommend you sub to this man. But I still made this video for today because I had 13 steady hands drop, and I used all of them extensively in the Crucible. They covered a huge range of different perk combinations and the massive spectrum from high range low stability to max stability low range. I think you can learn something valuable on what to chase for this hand cannon, as well as 120s in general. And just before we dive into the perks, I want to mention that our community Discord is growing really fast. We were at 600 on the last video that I posted, and now we've just broken 710 members. It's been a really great platform for me to get to know everybody and help people a lot more within the Discord than just on YouTube. So for example, if you have a bunch of steady hands, we can all look at it together and decide what we think is the best one for you. And on top of that, we're going to be starting these community scrims where every week we get together and try and teach people how to play a little bit more competitively so they can prep for things like trials. So if these are things that interest you, I've put the link down in the description below. I'd love to see you there, but let's get back to the video. Now, normally people bring you to a website called light.gg, and rightfully so. This website is fantastic. Essentially, anytime a new gun comes around, or if there's just a gun you're curious about, you can search it in their database and they'll show you everything that can roll on that gun. Is it database or database? Correct me in the comments. For example, this gun has 6 different sights, 8 different perks in the second column, and then the last 2 perk columns have 6 options each. You can hover over them and it'll tell you exactly what that perk does. In addition to that, above those perks, it actually tells you all of the in-game stats as well as the hidden stats on that gun. For example, this one has a base stat of 65 aim assist. I'm actually going to switch to a different website, which I have plugged in a number of my past videos already, but it's truly that good. You can find it at d2gunsmith.com. This is the recent Iron Banner one. I click on that and it'll give you the base stats on the gun right here. You can then go on to choose whatever it is that you want and it'll change the gun on the fly. For example, let's toss on a range masterwork of 10. This says +9 because an unupgraded masterwork of range is still going to add that +1. Then let's say I chose sure shot, ricochet rounds, moving target, and sure, snapshot. You see, as I clicked each one, it was adjusting things like the range, handling, aim assist, and all that good stuff. The reason I love doing this is because it helps me get the boundaries of what I should be looking for. Like in this case, the highest possible range steady hand I can get is an 86. I can then go to dim, click on a steady hand, and take a look. This particular one has a range stat of 68. I can hit the compare tool, and it'll pull up all of those different steady hands. But before we get going, let's talk about the trifecta of what makes a hand cannon feel good. High range, which allows you to do max damage at further distances and helps you with your accuracy. That's right, it decreases bullet RNG, or in other words, it helps the bullet go where you tell it to go. Stability helps you manage the kick of the gun and resets the bloom of the gun faster. And then aim assist, both the reticle stickiness for controllers and that bullet magnetism that applies on either platform. Now, historically, there's always been this debate between range versus stability on a hand cannon, and the reason for that was range compression. In particular, it was back when 150s were the meta. Let's just say you had a hand cannon with 100 in-game range stat, and that translated to, let's say, 40 meters effective range in the PvP match. Then let's say you had the exact same gun but different range, 50 in-game stat bar, and that translated to an effective range of, say, 35 meters in your PvP match. When I say compression, it was the fact that you could lose a lot of range on the stat bar, but seemingly only lose a small amount of effective range in game. This led people to believe that range didn't matter, but I'm here to make it clear that range has always mattered, and I have continued to die on that hill that with respect to PC specifically, hand cannons feel better with larger range. Now, the whole reason I'm even bringing this up is because this is the first time I'm ever going to recommend something against that with a hand cannon. I will absolutely make the claim that out of all 13 steady hand cannons that I used in Crucible, the ones with the most range had the highest hit potential that I could feel while playing, but the enormous kick in recoil that these guns have and the inherent range floor, in other words 120s having a large range even at their minimum, stability is crucial on these types of hand cannons. Now, based on that, how high could we get that stability? Well, let's put the 10 stability masterwork on. We'll go maximum stability with steady hand sight, and then the fourth column, which has iron grip, adding a ton of stability at the cost of reload speed. This steady hand has a range of 68 and 78 stability. My 13 versions covered the whole spectrum of max range low stability to max stability low range and a lot of pieces in between. I'm actually going to start with the third column because that's the one that has a lot of variety and perks, but not a game changer when it comes to the stats of your gun, because that's going to be a main speaking point. Beginning with Outlaw. Because the reload speed of this gun is so unbelievably stupid, on paper it sounds unbelievable, but this is where I find a lot more value with time played over looking at the paper. There were next to no occasions where I desperately needed Outlaw because I happened to hit a precision shot on my third bullet on somebody and I would have died if I didn't have it. Those of you that have seen a lot of my gameplay, it's a bit of a running joke that my guns are never reloaded, but you'll probably laugh at the fact that I'm saying do not use Outlaw. There are way better perks. Another one that I had on a lot of my hand cannons is Zen Moment. Maybe this is just a PC thing. I'm really sorry to the console folks because I don't have a controller right now, but this perk blows on a slow firing gun. Causing damage increases the stability. Well, guess what? I only have 3 shots to do damage with, and I need to make damn sure I hit the first 2. So this is just bottom of the barrel on a hand cannon like this, at least on PC. Another one was Killing Wind. This one feels pretty darn good when you do get that final blow, but I will always favor consistency in a gun over a trigger perk in a gun. For example, everyone and their dog raves about Rampage on 120s because it lets you 2-tap. But you know what? I'll be the odd man out and say I don't really care for Rampage on my 120 hand cannons. Yes, I get it, you can 2-tap with it, but you have to ask yourself what you're using it for. Sure, if you want to go into quick play, take advantage of Rampage because you have 6 targets that you've probably trapped in their spawn and you'll have a great time. But then you're going to load up into trials on the weekend with your buddies, and the moment you play a team that is just as good or better than you, you might lose every single 1v1 because you have a perk that's sitting dead and idle for you. So I'm sorry about my little rant, but for me, I'll always try and go for perks that are constant and not necessarily trigger. It's another reason why I like rangefinder so much more than opening shot, but I digress. Next up is Quick Draw. This is an interesting one. Because of the fact that 120s can feel sluggish, this perk seems tremendous, and I almost appreciated it more so because I could pull out my shotgun faster. That's right, Quick Draw on your hand cannon will make your shotgun pullout so much faster. But for me, I can run hand cannon dexterity, which again is actually better than shotgun dexterity when it comes to pulling out your shotgun and shooting, or I can recommend you practice the Quick Draw glitch as much as you can so things like this aren't quite as important. Either way, you shouldn't be sad if you get this perk. But the last two are Slide Shot and Moving Target. By far, 100%, these were the top 2 out of the 6. Absolute game changers. I was a little surprised by Moving Target, so we'll start with that one first. Content creator Drewski has dug into this perk specifically in the past, and I believe he ended up discovering that it added 10 aim assist to the gun. So in here, that base goes from 65 up to 70 because all the sights add 5, and then Moving Target brings that aim assist up to 80. Now back to that trifecta, aim assist absolutely plays a role on how good your hand cannon can feel. Toss on an enhanced hand cannon targeting mod, and now your aim assist is up to 90. And on this hand cannon, crossing that 90 aim assist line made a massive difference. Then if that isn't enough, it also increases your ADS strafe speed. So this is a top tier perk. Now the 6th perk was Slide Shot. This one is arguably just as good or slightly better. A lot of videos out there are talking about how insanely bad the reload speed is on this gun, and let me tell you, it does take about 10 hours to reload this gun. Slide Shot is so unbelievable for an aggressive playstyle because you're constantly sliding and adding 2 bullets to the mag each and every time. I really love this perk. With the 4th column, we'll start with Swashbuckler because everyone on the internet seemed to think this was the best thing ever. I have a Slide Shot Swashbuckler, which is one of my top rolls, but not because of Swashbuckler. It's because of Slide Shot. This perk goes down that same rabbit hole of having a trigger perk or a constant perk. If you're looking to end up on the top of the leaderboard in quick play, go ahead, Swashbuckler is good. You need 2 stacks in order to 2-tap with this gun, but you will get that when you have 6 opponents. If you're looking to do something in trials, I guarantee you this perk is not the one for you. Wellspring is very similar. It sounded unbelievable, and it is pretty damn sweet with the fact that it gives you a nice little bump to your charged abilities. But if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know that these straight direct bumps hinder the benefit the higher your tier. In other words, if you have really high discipline, Wellspring for your discipline is kind of meh. And from what I could tell, it does not impact your super. Mulligan, it sucks on this gun. Sorry. Snapshot feels really cool. Don't think it's necessary, especially if you run enhanced hand cannon targeting, which already increases the ADS time of your hand cannon. And if you use the ADS sliding technique that I've explained in my prior videos, it's also not super necessary, but I will always enjoy this perk on pretty much any gun because it just makes things feel so snappy, and I like it when things are quick. On to Iron Gaze. This perk is pretty unfortunate. It adds 20 aim assist, which is one of the core pieces to that trifecta I kept talking about, and you can get it with moving target. But aim assist caps at 100 on our guns, and I used a couple of guns having this perk a lot in the Crucible, and it could not compete at all to the other roles that I had. The 40 range is just too much. You might as well be using a Dire Promise with max aim assist than this thing at close range, because when you decrease the aim so much so that you're running, say, 33 or 35 meters on a 120, what? Okay, where was I? Oh yeah, if you're using a 120 that only has like 33 to 35 meters of range, but then on the flip side, you can run a Dire Promise with rangefinder that can have basically the same range, there ends up being no real reason to run that 120 over that 140 because it's limited by its effective range. Up close engagements are difficult with 120s, and a 140 will simply win that fight every time if you're up close. So this perk was a bit of a miss for me, which brings me to the last one, Iron Grip. It adds 20 stability, and it subtracts a boatload of reload speed, but you have to ask yourself what you're using the gun for. If I'm in 6s, yeah, reload speed is pretty huge and Swashbuckler is going to be amazing, but if I'm in trials, I need everything working for me just to win that gun engagement that I'm in. Obviously, there's a plethora of ways to win trials which involve teamwork, but in those cases where it's you versus one other person and you need to win that gunfight, you got to make sure your gun is giving you the best chance possible, and that's where something like range and stability shine more than reload speed. Now, I know people search these videos for that one epic god roll that they can chase. What I'm gonna say is that based on the 13 that I used a lot in Crucible, there are 2 perk combos that by far feel the best, and then a stat combo between range and stability that also by far feel the best. Starting with column 3 and 4, if you want the highest chance possible of hitting your shots, moving target Iron Grip is 100% the key. This one literally felt like I couldn't miss a headshot. The damn thing felt like I downloaded Perfect Aim after that shit company got shut down. I said there was 2 though, and that's because I personally preferred slide shot over moving target. Slightly less consistent when it came to hitting the shots, but just barely, and the 2 bullets every slide with that intrinsic boost whenever I initiate most of my engagements was just too hard to pass up. And the complementing perks to go with that would be a range masterwork, steady hand sight, and ricochet for that boost to both range and stability. But I don't want you to start deleting things that don't have that. So looking at the numbers, a range of 78 and a stability of 68 feel incredible on this gun. Remember, the maximum range is 86, and as soon as it dips below 70, you can really start to tell the difference. I simply wouldn't recommend it. Stability, honestly, on PC, between 40 and 50 is pretty well manageable and fine. When you cross the 50 threshold, it feels really good though. And then if you can cross 60, it starts to feel damn near a 140, like really easy to use. So that's where I recommend just using DIM to look at these numbers on all of the versions that you have to find the closest that you can to those windows of range and stability. I'll reiterate that you don't need a range masterwork. You can achieve this stuff with, say, a stability masterwork and corresponding perks in columns 1 and 2, but I will say if you end up with moving target instead of slide shot, for example, something like extended mag adds 3 to the magazine and subtracts 18 to your reload speed, but if your reload is already at 10, it can't go any less, so you're actually not seeing any further consequence to that. This bumps your mag from 8 to 11, which helps that ammo economy a little bit. I wanted to take a quick second to say thanks to everybody for the support recently. The channel is really starting to take off, and the sole reason is because of all of you. Subbing to the channel, liking the videos so the YouTube algorithm picks it up, sharing it with your friends whenever you find something that's helpful or useful is all what plays an essential role into helping me try and keep this channel growing. So I really appreciate it, and I'm excited to keep going next year. What you're seeing on screen right now is actually footage from my last video all about Destiny Item Manager. I mentioned that tool today on helping you compare your different steady hands or looking at these range numbers. Dim has very recently added a feature that when you're using that comparison tool, you can just click on different perks and see how you could change all of your current steady hands on the fly as well. It is the most powerful tool in Destiny, and I highly recommend you check that video out. Thanks again for all the support, and I'll see you in my next video.